Before you can lead others, you must learn to lead yourself. And before you can lead yourself, you must understand what true management really means. This isn't just another leadership talk. This is a wake-up call for anyone who's tired of going through the motions, frustrated with average results, and ready to break through to something greater. In this video, you're going to uncover the real power behind effective management, not from a place of ego or control, but from purpose, clarity, and action. You'll learn what separates good managers from unforgettable leaders, and why your influence isn't defined by your title, but by your consistency, your mindset, and your willingness to grow. If you're serious about leveling up your impact, guiding your team through uncertainty, and becoming the kind of leader people want to follow, then stay with us, because the words you're about to hear may just be the spark you need to transform your leadership, your career, and your life. Management is not a position, it's a responsibility, and the first responsibility of a great manager is to start with empathy, not authority. In a world that often glorifies control, deadlines, and bottom lines, the most effective leaders understand that before they can guide performance, they must connect with people. Empathy is not weakness. It is strength. It is not passive. It is one of the most active and intentional practices a leader can embrace. Because people don't follow titles, they follow those who understand them. When someone feels seen, heard, and understood, they bring their full self to the table. They engage not because they're told to, but because they feel valued. And when people feel valued, they give their best. That's the fuel for trust, loyalty, and long-term productivity. Many managers fall into the trap of thinking their role is to command and control. They think being the loudest in the room or the most feared makes them effective. But leadership born of fear burns out fast. Management built on empathy, on the other hand, creates culture. When a manager takes time to understand the personal challenges, the quiet strengths, and the deeper motivations of their team members, they create an environment where people want to work, not have to work. When employees believe their manager genuinely cares for their well-being, not just their output, they're more engaged, more innovative, and more resilient. This kind of empathy doesn't mean lowering standards. It means raising expectations the right way. It means believing that people can do more and be more. When they're given the right support, it means taking the time to ask someone, "How are you, really?" and being willing to listen. It means noticing when someone is off their game and checking in, not calling them out. It means giving someone a second chance, not because they earned it, but because you remember what it felt like to be given one. And most importantly, it means creating psychological safety, a space where people can speak, try, fail, and grow without fear of shame. Empathy in management is not a soft skill. It's a human skill. It requires presence, awareness, and a desire to lead people, not push projects. The most admired managers are not the ones who demand the most. They are the ones who understand the most. They recognize that behind every metric is a person. Behind every deadline is a human story. When you manage with empathy, you become the person your team wants to follow, not just the one they have to. You unlock their potential by giving them permission to bring their whole selves into the room. And in return, they unlock results that no strategy or system could ever force. If you want to lead effectively, you must first learn to listen deeply. If you want your team to care about the mission, you must care about the people carrying it out. Because management isn't about managing tasks, it's about guiding people. And people aren't driven by rules. They're driven by relationships. The greatest changes in performance, culture, and creativity happen when empathy becomes your first move. When you manage from a place of understanding, you don't just build a successful team. You build a team that stays, grows, and thrives. Learning how to communicate with clarity and empathy is not just about speaking, it's about connection. A great manager is not someone who talks the loudest or dominates the room with authority, but someone who understands how to speak in a way that builds trust and drives alignment. Communication is the bloodstream of effective leadership. Without clear and empathetic communication, even the best strategies can collapse under the weight of misunderstanding. It begins with listening, truly listening, not to respond, but to understand. Most people don't need a manager to give them all the answers, they need someone to hear them. When you make your team feel seen and heard, you unlock a sense of loyalty that no salary or benefit package can buy. Great managers know how to simplify the complex. They take the cluttered goals and messy processes and translate them into something meaningful and actionable. Clarity doesn't mean dumbing things down. It means you respect your people enough to make sure they know why they do what they do. When people understand the purpose behind their tasks, they work with heart, not just hands. They go from compliance to commitment, but clarity without empathy becomes a command. Empathy without clarity becomes chaos. It's the marriage of both that makes communication transformational. Empathy in communication is not just about being nice, it's about being effective. You cannot lead people you do not understand. You cannot coach what you do not see. You cannot fix what you refuse to acknowledge. Managers who communicate with empathy don't jump to conclusions. They ask better questions. They don't label failure as incompetence. They see it as feedback. They don't talk down. They meet their team where they are. That's how you build psychological safety, a foundation every high-performing team stands on. People will only bring you problems if they feel safe doing so. They'll only innovate if they know they won't be punished for mistakes. And they'll only give you the truth if they trust you won't weaponize their vulnerability. Communicating with clarity and empathy also requires consistency. Mixed messages create confusion. Inconsistent tone creates distrust. When your words and actions align, you give your team something precious, certainty. In uncertain environments, clarity becomes a form of kindness, and empathy becomes a form of strength. You don't need to have all the answers, but you do need to communicate your commitment to figuring it out together. That kind of presence builds culture. That kind of trust turns managers into mentors and teams into families. Many managers underestimate how much their words shape the emotional climate of their teams. A careless comment can shatter confidence. A word of encouragement can spark potential. Your voice can be a weapon or a gift, so choose it wisely. Communicate expectations, yes, but also communicate belief. Remind your people not only what they need to do, but who they are capable of becoming. Because when people believe their manager sees them not just as an employee, but as a human being, they show up with more resilience, more passion, and more ownership. And that's the kind of team that changes outcomes. That's the kind of leadership that endures. Mastering decision, making under pressure, is the mark of a truly effective manager. In today's fast-paced environment, where uncertainty is the norm and stakes are high, being able to make sound decisions under pressure separates average leaders from transformational ones. Pressure doesn't create new habits, it reveals them. It reveals the way you think, the way you lead, and the way you manage yourself and others. Decision-making is not just a matter of intelligence, it's a matter of composure, clarity, and conviction. You can't afford to freeze, and you can't afford to act recklessly. Your role as a manager is to navigate that thin line between hesitation and haste. Every decision carries a ripple effect. In high-pressure moments, people aren't just watching what you decide, they're watching how you decide. Are you reactive or reflective? Do you explode with urgency or pause with purpose? Teams take emotional cues from their leaders. When you panic, they panic. When you approach chaos with calm, they begin to believe that there's a path forward even when the road ahead isn't fully visible. And sometimes what people need most isn't the perfect answer. They need your presence. They need your grounded energy to stabilize their uncertainty. Making decisions under pressure requires a mental model, one that involves separating emotion from information. Pressure creates noise, and noise clouds judgment. You must learn to filter through that noise to get to what truly matters. Strip away the fear, the ego, the need to be right, and ask yourself, what's the best next move for the mission, for the team, for the long-term vision? It's not always about choosing the fastest option. It's about choosing the most aligned one. That means gathering input, but not becoming paralyzed by it. That means owning the outcome, even when the decision is unpopular. The most effective managers under pressure don't aim for perfection. They aim for progress. They understand that not every decision has to be final, but it must be made. Indecision is often more dangerous than a wrong decision because it creates ambiguity, and ambiguity breeds anxiety. Your ability to decide, learn, adjust, and move again builds momentum. And momentum, especially in high-pressure situations, is what keeps teams engaged, focused, and hopeful. Courage plays a massive role in pressured decision-making. It's not always easy to stand by a choice that might cost you approval. It's not always easy to make the hard call when everyone's emotions are high. But courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the discipline of action in the presence of fear. Managers who master pressure learn to trust their values, their vision, and their team. They know that the role of leadership is not to avoid storms, it's to navigate through them. This kind of decision-making is built over time. It's not a gift, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it strengthens with repetition, reflection, and resolve. You get better at it the more you face it. You learn from the wrong calls. You gain insight from the ones that worked. And more than anything, you develop the wisdom to know that in every high-stakes moment, the real decision isn't just about the issue at hand, it's about the kind of leader you are choosing to become. Because when pressure rises, the world doesn't need more noise. It needs leaders who think clearly, act courageously, and lead decisively. Building emotional intelligence for team dynamics is the cornerstone of truly effective management. It's not enough to be smart, strategic, or skilled. If you don't understand the emotional currents running through your team, you're leading with a blindfold. Emotional intelligence isn't just about being nice or understanding people. It's about being aware, attuned, and responsive to the emotional realities that drive human behavior. Because behind every task is a person, and behind every person is a need to be heard, to be seen, to be valued. Managers who master emotional intelligence can read a room without a single word being spoken. They sense tension before it erupts, they pick up on unspoken doubts, and they recognize burnout before it becomes breakdown. It's not magic, it's the skill of being present. It's asking not just what's the problem, but how are you feeling about it? It's realizing that sometimes the reason a team member is underperforming isn't a lack of competence, it's a lack of connection. And that connection begins with you. Teams don't fall apart because of tasks. They fall apart because of relationships that break down slowly, quietly, and often invisibly. Emotional intelligence allows you to see those cracks early. It gives you the language to address conflict before it calcifies into resentment. It helps you communicate hard truths with empathy instead of ego, and it helps you take feedback not as a threat, but as a bridge toward mutual respect. Emotional intelligence makes you the kind of leader people trust, not just because you deliver results, but because you care about the people delivering them. There's an incredible strength in vulnerability. Not weakness, vulnerability, the strength to say, I don't have all the answers, the humility to ask, how can I support you better, the courage to admit when you've fallen short emotionally. That kind of honesty builds psychological safety, and psychological safety is the secret sauce of forming teams. When people feel safe, they take risks. When they feel heard, they speak up. When they feel seen, they step up. Emotional intelligence also means managing your own emotions, especially when things go wrong. The team takes its emotional cues from you. If you explode in frustration, they internalize fear. If you shut down in disappointment, they withdraw too. But if you remain calm in conflict, curious in disagreement, and composed under stress, they mirror your maturity. Your emotional discipline becomes their emotional compass. It sets the tone for how they relate to each other, how they handle pressure, and how they show up every day. Listening is your superpower, and not just listening to words. Listening to energy, to silence, to hesitation. The way someone says, I'm fine, often says more than the words themselves. Emotional intelligence trains you to listen between the lines, to know when to push and when to pause, to know when someone needs accountability and when they need grace. It turns you from a manager of tasks into a leader of hearts and minds. Ultimately, emotional intelligence is not about controlling others. It's about understanding them deeply enough that they feel empowered to grow, contribute, and lead. It's the foundation of trust, and trust is the foundation of everything. In a world that constantly demands more speed, more output, more efficiency, emotional intelligence reminds us to slow down just enough to connect. Because the teams that thrive are not the ones that never struggle. They're the ones who have a leader who sees them, supports them, and walks with them through every emotional terrain they face. Empowering others through delegation is not about simply handing off tasks, it's about handing over trust. When you delegate effectively, you're not just reducing your workload, you're multiplying the capacity of your team. You are telling someone, I believe in you, I trust your judgment, I see your potential. That single act creates a ripple effect. People rise to the level of expectation they feel entrusted with. Delegation, when done right, becomes one of the most powerful tools a manager can use to build leaders instead of followers. Many people misunderstand delegation. They think it's a way to remove responsibility from their shoulders. But great managers know the truth. Delegation is responsibility sharing, not responsibility dumping. You're not escaping accountability. You're extending ownership. You're giving someone the chance to make decisions, solve problems, and take initiative. That kind of opportunity doesn't just lighten your burden, it develops their muscle. It helps them think, act, and lead with more confidence and clarity. People want to grow. They don't come to work just to complete tasks. They come to feel valuable, capable, and important. When you withhold responsibility, you unintentionally send a message that they're not ready or not trusted. But when you delegate meaningfully, you empower them to step into more of who they can become. You give them the chance to learn, make mistakes, and stretch their abilities. That's how real development happens, not through micromanagement, but through belief in someone's potential. Of course, effective delegation takes intention. You can't just toss out assignments and hope for the best. You have to delegate with clarity and purpose. You have to communicate what success looks like, provide the resources they need, and make yourself available for guidance, not control. You have to let go of the desire to do it all your way and give space for others to find their way. This is one of the hardest shifts a manager has to make, from being the hero to becoming the guide. But when you step back, You give others the room to step up. Delegation also teaches accountability. When people own a task, they begin to understand the weight of responsibility. They learn how to prioritize, manage time, and problem solve. They start seeing how their individual effort contributes to the bigger picture. That connection to purpose transforms the way they work. They're no longer just doing what's asked, they're investing themselves in the outcome. That's when real engagement happens. That's when you stop managing tasks and start building a culture of leadership. But delegation isn't just about performance, it's about trust. Every time you delegate, you're building a relational bridge. You're saying, I see your value. You're fostering a culture where people feel seen, heard, and empowered. And when people feel empowered, they innovate, they take initiative, they bring their best selves to the table. They feel like stakeholders in something meaningful. That emotional investment is what separates a good team from a great one. Managers who master the art of delegation create ripple effects that go far beyond efficiency. They build confidence, nurture growth, and unlock potential in others. They create environments where people feel safe to try, supported when they fall, and celebrated when they succeed. And in doing so, they don't just build better teams, they build future leaders. The legacy of a great manager isn't just what they achieve, it's who they empower along the way. Delegation, when driven by trust and purpose, is the spark that ignites that journey. Managing under pressure is not about suppressing stress or pretending everything is fine. It's about staying grounded when everything around you is not. When pressure builds, a manager's true character is revealed. Some collapse, others react impulsively, but the best leaders respond with clarity, calm, and purpose. This doesn't mean they don't feel the pressure. It means they've developed the mindset and habits to operate through it with focus. When the stakes are high, your team doesn't need more panic. They need stability, and that starts with you. Pressure often comes from uncertainty, deadlines, crises, conflict, or failure. In these moments, people instinctively look to their leader for reassurance. Not for all the answers, but for direction, for composure, and for belief that the situation can be managed. Your tone, your body language, your decisions, they all set the emotional temperature of the team. When you stay calm, it gives others permission to breathe. It models that pressure doesn't have to mean chaos, and that setbacks don't have to mean defeat. Managing under pressure requires emotional regulation. It demands the ability to slow down internally even when the world is speeding up externally. You can't make thoughtful decisions if your mind is clouded by panic. The most powerful thing you can do in a high-stress moment is pause. Take a breath. Ask the right questions. What's urgent versus what's important? What are the facts? What's in our control? That pause is what creates space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies your leadership. Pressure exposes weak systems and poor communication. If you wait until pressure hits to develop a plan, you're already behind. That's why the best managers prepare before the storm. They create clarity around roles. They communicate consistently. They set expectations not just for performance, but for behavior under stress. They encourage a culture where people can speak up early before issues become fires. This proactive mindset transforms pressure from a threat into a test of readiness. And your preparation determines your resilience. When things go wrong, and they will, the focus should shift from blame to learning. Pressure creates the temptation to point fingers to find fault, but strong leaders shift the focus to solutions. They ask, what can we learn? How do we move forward? This mindset doesn't erase accountability, it strengthens it. It says, we're in this together, and we grow through every challenge. That sense of unity under pressure is what forges trust. It's what turns difficult moments into defining ones. Managing under pressure also means managing yourself. You are the first person you lead each day. Your energy, your mindset, your discipline, they ripple into every conversation and decision. If you neglect your own well-being, your leadership suffers. That's why high-performing managers develop habits that protect their clarity, sleep, movement, reflection, and boundaries. They know burnout helps no one, and that composure is a skill built through daily practice, not emergency performance. Pressure can break people, or it can build them. It can fracture teams, or it can unite them. The difference lies in leadership, not the title, but the presence. When you show up under pressure with integrity, focus, and courage, you give your team something to believe in. You turn moments of fear into moments of clarity, and that clarity becomes the compass that helps everyone find their way forward. In the end, it's not the pressure that defines you. It's the way you lead through it that people will remember. In the journey of developing management skills, it's not just about learning how to give orders or measure performance. It's about learning how to lead people with vision, humility, and resilience. It's about recognizing that true leadership is earned through trust, built through clarity, and sustained through consistent action. Great managers don't have all the answers. They ask better questions. They don't micromanage, they empower. They don't crumble under pressure. They become the steady voice that others can follow. Every great team, every thriving culture, every breakthrough starts with someone who decided to lead, not just with authority, but with purpose. And that someone can be you. Whether you're leading 2 people or 200, your ability to listen, to grow, to adapt, and to serve is what sets you apart. Because management isn't just a skill, it's a responsibility. And when done right, it becomes your greatest tool to inspire others, ignite potential, and create real, lasting change. Thank you for watching and staying until the end. If this message helped shift your perspective or encouraged your journey toward becoming a better leader, please consider liking this video, subscribing for more powerful insights, and sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support means more than you know. Keep leading with courage and never forget, the future is shaped by those who choose to manage with heart and lead with intention.